Hey, it's time for the Twice Removed podcast with Linda and Gina, where we talk about all things genealogy, including making connections with long-lost relatives while snooping in on our ancestors. Hey, it's good to know where you come from. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Twice Removed podcast. This is Gina and
Linda.
Hey, we made it back. They let us come back one more week. We have a great guest with us today. We have known this lady for quite some time, and she's absolutely wonderful. And give her a big welcome. Karol Ballard is here. Yay, Karol.
Yay, Karol.
Thank you for joining us.
Hey, it's my pleasure. One of my favorite subjects.
I know, because following you on Facebook, I see all these relatives of yours that you have posted and popped up, and it's intriguing and it's amazing.
And I am thrilled that somebody else gives as much of a darn as I do.
Right.
Oh,
yeah. What we want to is what made you start this? I mean, are you the family historian, quote unquote, or did you stumble upon something that intrigued you? Or
I'll tell you what really got me interested in it first was when I was a wee lass, I asked my grandmother, why didn't she have any kids? And she said, I do. She said, your daddy was my little boy. And that just blew my mind. And it kind of opened the whole thing. And, my brother and I would go through our grandparents' storage shed, and there was a diary. And one of the pages was all outlined in black. And it was some great aunt, and I wish I could remember who, that was talking about when Lincoln was assassinated. And I think that if Ancestry had been around then, I probably would have just jumped right on it, and, here I was 8 or 9 or something like that. But I was just absolutely blown away by it. My grandfather was the family historian. And then his nephew, Dee, who's the family genius, he built his own webpage. It's balcrow.com. And he has, it's very, very different setup than Ancestry. And it took me a long time to get familiar with it. And then once my brain connected with what he was doing, I saw that there were all these stories, all these recipes. The lineage was just amazing. And about that time, Ancestry started getting really good. So I got onto that. And then all these leaves started popping up, and I started going down one rabbit hole and then another, and it just opened up so many things. And then the DNA, and now I've met so many cousins, and so it's been quite a journey. And today I popped back on it because I wanted to talk about the pride of our family. Her name is Dr. Anna Ballard, and I wanted to get my dates right on when she was born and when she passed away. And then I saw that my grandfather's youngest sibling died. So they were 24 years apart.
Oh, wow. So
I got off on that tangent. Anyway, it was kind of hard for me to get back to where I was going to have time for you all.
Well, we're glad you did.
Yeah,
and you do.
So what do you want to know? Well,
then tell us about what you found about your grandma. Was it your great grandma? The one you just said? The doctor.
Yeah. Her name in the family, the Ballard family, we call her Auntie Doctor. That's
Auntie Doctor.
Yes. And all of the relatives, everybody had a picture of Auntie Doctor. Like, I guess some Catholics have a picture of the Pope and John Kennedy and things like that. Everybody had a picture of Auntie Doctor. And she was born before the Civil War and passed away in 1930 something. But she was one of the first female doctors in Michigan. She's in the Michigan Women's Hall of Fame. And when I was growing up hearing about her, I heard that she was a temperance advocate. And I'm like, oh, she stuffy, didn't want to have fun. But then when I got to reading more about her, she, like I said, she was one of the first female physicians, and she just saw a lot of incidences of alcoholism and what that was doing to families, because she saw a lot of children and women that had been abused. So then it's just like, I really felt bad about prejudging her before I knew what she was all about. Anyway, she was pretty cool, super smart. Reading the articles about her, these men back then are weighing in saying, how thoughtful and measured and intelligent she is. And everybody was super on board with her being a doctor and, being a female doctor, which didn't seem to matter that much to them then. At least I've never read anything where it said, this woman has no business being a doctor. I guess she was a fine physician and a fine human being. But
and there she is now.
That's my best friend.
And she's like, thank you from beyond, the great beyond.
From you. Anyway, and another interesting thing about her, so I had looked her up on Find a Grave. I'm on to all the sites.
I was on there this morning.
Were you?
Yes.
Who were you looking at?
I was adding a tombstone picture to a great uncle.
Ah, yeah. So I went over to this, and I've been trying to gather my little family pod, put myself down as the, when you have your own little family cemetery thing, you have all your relatives. So I have many of my relatives, and she was, when I first started doing this, like she was the huge prize to me because she's awesome. And somebody else had claimed her, and they put her housemate down as her spouse. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So I got a hold of them and I said, what made you, put her housemate down as spouse? Her name was F. Adelaide Barrage. And she said, I got to look at everything. She said they lived together for many, many years. They're buried next to each other, have matching tombstones. And I'm like, well, that kind of all signs point to that.
Writing's on the wall there.
Yeah, but that things like that were not spoken of. And then my cousin, who is as much into genealogy as I am, sent me a picture. And she said, my mother had all these, she's going to throw them out. I saw this picture of Auntie Doctor with a woman. And she said, I wanted to send it to you and see if you know who that is. And I'm like, I don't know who that is, but it looks like, a husband and wife pose. So I think you guys have seen that. I've posted it a few times. And if not, I'll send it to you. And I said, I think that's Effie. I think her nickname was Effie. So
it's amazing what kind of narratives you can form around the data that you're finding and the pictures and all the clues and hints.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yes, it is. And I mean, it seems like when you get older, then you get interested in genealogy, and so many relatives have passed away and you can't talk to them. Yeah. And I'm like, well, even if I could talk to my grandparents about this, I couldn't talk to my grandparents about this.
No. And what year did she pass away, Auntie Doctor?
Yeah, 1936, I think.
Huh. Yeah, that was still, yeah.
Yeah, and she was in her 80s. So, and then Effie died, I think maybe 20 years later. She was a younger woman. And
have you talked to any of like Effie's relatives? Have you found them?
I have found a few, and I have sought to engage, but they're like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. End of story. So I'm going to try a few more because I really want to make sure that I'm not misrepresenting her, that this is indeed Effie. I don't know who else it can be. She didn't have any younger sisters.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then,
definitely
throughout the ages.
Yeah, this is definitely not a cold case. You got to stay on that.
Definitely.
Very interesting, though. I mean, the stories that pop out of all of this data and whatever, it's...
Well, yeah, and then all of a sudden people get interested in their genealogy, so they'll weigh in.
Yeah, yeah. You have to give them a lot of introduction first so that they know where they are, because a lot of people don't even know anybody beyond their grandparents. So
right.
That's shocking to me, but it's true.
Crazy.
Oh yeah,
it is.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Listening to you guys talking about your past relatives, is very interesting. So
I'm just really glad. My mother kept repeating things to me over and over again. And then after she passed away, I got with my aunt and made sure that I verified all the stories and whatever. Mm-hmm. So,
well, we were still on after we had another guest on, Judy. And for S&Gs, we started doing one of my, we were talking about the tree. So we got on my tree and we went back and we got to BC, like 200 BC. On one of my lines, and we're like laughing hysterically every time. It's like, oh, this has got to be
Jesus?
The end of it.
Jesus has got to be showing up here somewhere.
Yeah. We're like,
where is he?
Yeah,
your relatives knew him anyway.
Yeah, and it's astounding. It was like, and then everybody's all royals and royalty and stuff. And like Linda had said, she goes, they kept track of that because of the royalty. There are records, so you can keep going back, and it's the king of this, the
they
queen
were
of that.
impotent people, so they kept their information going.
Yeah.
Mine usually cuts off around 1400 for whatever branch I'm on. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm having
how far back did you trace yours?
Back to like the 1500s. And that's like the parents and grandparents of the immigrants in my family. And although I signed up for Ancestry's World thing, I'm having a really hard time going through the European records. So I'm not
in English. Are they in English?
Yeah. I'm mostly Scottish.
Well, that helps a little bit.
Yes.
Unless there's a handwriting cursive of the day, whatever font they're using.
Yeah, that's difficult. But I'll tell you what, when I tried to, my mother's father was Mexican, and when I try to trace stuff in Mexico, oh my God. Everybody's named after everybody else, you know, and then they go by their mother's name or they don't. So it's been very hard for me to trace back how far back they go.
Are the records readily available in Mexico, or is it a harder time?
They seem to be. I mean,
that's great.
Especially church records.
That's the way to go with that. Yeah. The smaller villages and whatever probably didn't have better record keeping than the churches. So
yeah. Well, my great grandparents, I have their wedding certificate, and I was really glad to find this. This was a big treasure because my mother said, I don't know if we're Jewish or not because, she said, my dad's parents were married by a rabbi. And I'm like, really? And I thought, stories just kind of float around. But anyway, I was able to find their marriage certificate, and sure enough, they were married by a rabbi. But it seems that whatever religious person that floated into town, that's who they would have marry them.
Huh.
But I thought that was kind of strange because they're super Catholic.
I don't see that happening in
Texas. It was in Texas.
Oh, in Texas? No, really? I don't know.
Yeah, but then
by a rabbi, Catholics in Texas?
I forget what the Jewish sect in Spain was. And then, they immigrated to Mexico, but they could tell who they were because they turned the saints' faces towards the wall.
Oh.
So that way they could pretend that they were Catholic, but, in their heart they knew they weren't Catholic because they didn't have to look at the saints. Have you heard of those guys?
No. That's astounding. Amazing.
Well, if I'd realized I was going to go off on that tangent, I would have made sure that I looked it up first.
That's all right. Yeah.
But that's a good one, though.
It is a good one.
In fact, one of those programs had a story on these. Can I just look real quick?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Spanish.
That's wild.
Sephardic.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not the Ashkenazis.
They're the other.
Yeah, but so I'm on both 23andMe and Ancestry for the DNA, and 23andMe has me as like 0.2% Ashkenazi Jewish, and none whatsoever on the Ancestry. So I was a little disappointed in that, but they have the same ratio of Native Americans, so I was happy about that.
And the Native is like the same side as the Mexican American-ish? Yeah.
Yeah, looking at my dad's DNA, it's like there's three colors. It's English, Irish, and Welsh. Scottish. And then my mom's is a rainbow.
That's like my family. My dad's is pretty much the 3 2, and then it's like my mom is everything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I didn't know I was Mexican until I was in my 20s. I'd always ask my mom about her heritage because I was interested in it then, and she said we're English and Irish and Bulldog. And I never could get a straight answer her. Well, it turned out that she had encountered a lot of racism. She was born in Oklahoma, but mostly raised in Texas. And all of her Mexican side of the family is in Texas. So, and just before she passed away in 2020, she was telling a story about, she was a sun worshiper, so she's very dark. And my grandmother was, very Scottish and very white, green eyes and white. And she said people would come up and talk to my mother and say, "And whose little girl is this?" And she said, "This is my little girl." And I said, "Oh, so you were like Ricky and Lucy before Ricky and Lucy were a thing." But she did open up and talk a little bit about all the racism that she encountered, in the good old South.
Well,
and hung in there.
The cool thing about my Mexican relatives in Texas is they were one of the founding families of San Angelo, Texas. So we're pretty proud about that.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And my grandfather, my great-grandfather, he got in a shootout with the law, and they surrounded the tent or something where he was at and just opened fire and just killed the heck out of him.
Wow.
Because he was, I guess, taking jobs away from Whitey. I don't know. But yeah. But he did.
Is there still family there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In fact,
still own the town.
Yeah. In fact, the woman that I was talking about when we first came on that had just passed away, she was born and raised and died in San Angelo.
And now, can you talk about like your Native American past and how far back can you trace that? Because that's like almost near impossible, right?
Yes. Because there was a time in history where it was not cool to be Native American. So a lot of that has been lost. And I don't know for sure whether all of the Native American that I have is like, Aztec Mayan, the Southern Native Americans. I know that we have a faction of people that came from Canada, but I think they were all Scottish, pretty well documented. But I think it's probably, just from down south, there's been rumor of a Cherokee, and I've looked everywhere and I can't find, if they wanted to erase it, they did a darn good job of it, because the only proof that I have of it is the DNA.
Oh,
I was sad about that.
And what's the percentage on that, on the DNA for the Cherokee? Do you remember?
Well, they don't have it broken up.
Oh, they don't.
On the DNA, it's just Indigenous America, and it has it going from Canada to South America, so they could be from anywhere in that. But it seems like that my people were mostly from Chihuahua. People were teasing me about that, and they said, that's why you're so little. And then this Mexican friend of mine said, actually, the people from Chihuahua are known to be long, lanky, and athletic. And I said, well, I didn't get that gene.
You got the athletic gene, but...
after fashion.
Well, the reason I was asking about the percentage is because if you can take that number, you might be able to figure out what generation and then the years that would have maybe been in a specific area. Because it is a little bit of a calculation. I mean, like... It
is. Like New Mexico, I have a heavy presence, according to my DNA, from New Mexico. So it's basically North Mexico, middle. And then some of the women mostly look very Native American that are from my mother's side of the family. I've gotten back to like a third great grandmother, and there's a photograph of her, and she looks extremely Native.
Wow.
It's maybe before Whitey watered everything down. But I did want to talk about one of the avenues that I went down was looking back to the first Ballard that came along was he came to Andover, Massachusetts. So I started, I just Googled everything I could on early Andover and things like that. And then there was like his grandson was there, and they said he was one of the constables that arrested the witches that were in Andover and Salem. I'm like, oh no, he's a bad guy. And so I did, more research into him, and then I got off on a tangent of, his kids and grandkids, and I was researching a great grandmother, and I'm like, some of the names in her tree look really familiar, and they were the witches.
Oh wow!
So the great grandson of the constable married the great granddaughter of the witches.
Wow.
And
that's a movie. That's a movie right there.
and that's an awkward Thanksgiving. Hi, Mike.
Wow. So you go back in landing in America with your family lineage. Your
pilgrimage.
Oh yeah. The Ballards. Yeah. I think William and Mary, or Mary and John, was the ship that they came in on, something like that. And then also, my dad would tell stories, but he never let the truth get in the way of a good story. And he said we were from the Mayflower, So I looked that up and I traced it back. And sure enough, he wasn't kidding about that. We were the Brewster, the head guy on the Mayflower. We're descended from the Brewsters. So I got a hold of my cousin Dee, and I said, I always thought my dad was pulling my leg. I said, but we are from the Mayflower. And he said, yeah, we are. He said, and people are kind of proud about that. And I said, well, I guess it's something you can be proud of. But, I'm pretty much into the Native American thing. And I just, I don't appreciate what was done to them. I mean, because of that, we're all here. But so,
Well, there's a lot of
sorry
things.
You had to take one for the team, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. There's always something in everybody's background that is like, oh, cringing, So, I mean, I'm German, so.
And all that entails.
Yeah.
So I told Dee, I said, so I've gone off on another tangent, Dee, and I said, I think we're descended from the witches. And I said, I want you to please go back and see if you can corroborate my research. So, because he is the genius after all, I just want to insert this. He beat Bobby Fischer in chess.
Oh, is that all?
So,
my goodness.
It was so funny. He came up to introduce himself to me at my dad's funeral. And I said, oh my God, you don't have to introduce yourself to me. I said, I brag about you all the time. But what a lovely man he was. He just recently passed away. So I was so sorry to lose him, because he was, my genealogy buddy.
Oh,
well, now you have us.
Yay, thank you.
We'll be your genealogy buddies.
That's right.
So you guys watch all those shows. Who do you think you are? And what was the other one?
Finding Your Roots.
Finding Your Roots.
Love them.
I do too. Absolutely love them. And they're all pretty much the same story, but it nevertheless fascinates me every time somebody finds something cool.
Yeah, it fascinates me. I mean, I know they have the resources to do it, but when they just dig extra deep and come up with these things, it's like,
I know, because they can go back into Europe and they fly people over there to look through the archives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So have you guys done any of that
alone?
I mean, as far as researching outside of the internet?
Yeah, like go back to Europe. Hey.
Well, fortunately, I think my mother must have gotten these records from when she needed to make her citizenship test back in the day, in the 50s.
Your mom had to do a citizenship test?
Yeah, she was from Germany. So when she became an American.
You are a newbie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's why, American history stuff from other people who have had centuries of family and ancestors here. That's interesting to me because I don't have that. But yeah, so she had to get probably documents of her parents and when she was born and all this other stuff to become an American citizen after World War II, because, clearly they want to make sure that, your father was a carpenter and not a Nazi, whatever.
Oh, so, he was Jesus.
So
he used that hammer for good and not evil.
yeah,
Where in Germany?
Near Heidelberg.
Ah,
Yeah.
my dad and we were stationed in Heilbronn, Germany.
Okay.
God, love Germany. Have you been at all?
Oh yeah. I haven't been lately. I've been wanting to go.
Yeah.
I was in Cologne. That's my German experience.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that Taya had a convention there with the cast, so we got to go to Cologne for a weekend and stuff. So it was fun.
Oh, good.
And I highly recommend doing the cathedral tour with Sharon Glass. It was epically fun. So,
I bet.
Yeah, she was kind of fun. But it's beautiful there. It is absolutely beautiful.
No,
today I was going through a lot of photo albums and scanning pictures because I'm putting together a family book for my mother's side of the family. Mm-hmm. And I was just going through all of those beautiful pictures of the churches, and there was some from Heidelberg and Neustadt on the Weinstrasse and all of that. And it's just to have all those pictures just as tourist pictures. It's just so cool. So.
Probably had a relative that designed it or something.
So who knows?
So have you guys, something recently happened. I'm on Family Search too, but that's never really been much of a resource for me. And then all of a sudden, like last month, my 4th great grandfather, somebody posted a picture of him. And I'm like, nobody had a picture of that far back. He was the son of the Revolutionary War soldier on the Ballard side of the family. So that was a little treat.
That is something I think they may have updated their system a little bit, because earlier this year I got a string of photos that were tagged to common relatives.
Yeah.
That were in my tree and the other person's tree.
Yeah.
And I think that they added the @ whatever, the handle, whatever, for the person on the tree. And I got all these pictures of my great grandmother that I didn't even know who she was or what she looked like.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then the next thing you know, there's a picture with my grandparents this is in Norway. Uh-huh. And so that's why. And long story, but my dad passed away when I was 5, so I didn't have a whole lot of story there. Yeah. So I just I have a photo album without captions. And so these pictures started showing up. So I think it has a lot to do with that. Maybe they restructured their site a little bit. And that's why I always say, go look for pictures. Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
Just see if they're going to be there, because it's possible,
Well, I sent a note to the lady that posted it. And I said, where'd you get this picture? Are you a cousin or what? And she said, we had a photo album, and thank goodness they did caption the people in the photo album. And she says, I just, decided to post them and see if something came up. And I said, well, thank you for doing that. I said, yeah. And I said, I feel like that this is karma too. My cousin got a photo album from her mom when her mom passed away. And she said, I have no idea who all these people are. It was like, a distant cousin, my grandfather's. And I said, well, I'll post them on Ancestry and see if we get any bites. Well, like a handful of people wrote me and like, where did you get these? We always wondered what cousin so-and-so looked like, or uncle this and that. And I don't know, it made me feel so good that I was able to do that for these people.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
Yeah, some people have no pictures of anyone.
The Italian side is kind of like a mystery, and the Jewish side after my great-grandparents is kind of a mystery. So,
well, that's a bummer.
It is. I keep looking, but the Italian records are so hard.
You never know when someone's going to dump a bunch of stuff on there.
Absolutely.
No. You have to do the deep dive.
And we also fight with the last name getting cut. They said that that's not true, a myth at Ellis Island, but we're finding that it's not, because we've seen so many records where it's a C and then it's a double C and it's a single C and then it's a K, and it's like, oh, you guys are just hideous. So,
well, yeah, especially, long German names, long Polish names, they would butcher and anglicize out the wazoo. So it's very difficult. I mean, I say how difficult it is because everybody in Mexico has the same dang name. But people that come over Ellis Island, their name has been chopped and molded. And so that is very difficult. I feel for you.
Well, you haven't lived until you've tried to go through Norwegian and Swedish records before they got rid of the patronymic last names.
Like
the House of Johann.
daughter.
No, wrong side.
Oh.
Yeah, like you're named after your father's first name. So it's like if my father was Henry, my name would be Henry's daughter.
Henry daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank God they stopped that in the by 1900 or something like that. And
yeah, there's too many people now, y'all.
well, I can't find anybody like a direct line to find anything in the Norwegian, whatever. I'm in heavy research right now with that. I'm related to everyone in Minnesota, apparently. And seriously, you joke, I laugh, haha. But it's true. But it's just hard because of the last names and the changing. I like the idea of having, like in Mexico, for the most part, I noticed this. They do the mother's first name and then hyphen last name of the father or something like that. And it makes so much sense because at least you know who this kid belongs to.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? And if it's different, then the following one would be, well, you kind of like tuck that middle name in a little bit. And then when you have children, then they are named after their mother and your, the father's last name or whatever. But
yeah. Well, it's pretty convoluted. And trying to log all this stuff on Ancestry is just like, okay, well, I have some relatives. These women have been married 4 times. So I was trying to put all the last names on the last name thing. And because if you just put their maiden name, then that cuts out a lot of, on first glance, cuts out a lot of the people that she's been married to and all the children that she's had by all these different guys.
They should have a different way of doing the last names for women, because I always believe in keeping the maiden name on there if I know it, because, you get all the early records before. And then a lot of times too is that they log the birth certificates by the maiden name instead of, the married name. So you would have the father's name, his real name, and then the mother's maiden name. So you wouldn't necessarily find the mother or find the child by the mother. But I wish that they would put in some kind of like more spaces. Like the men don't ever change their names usually, right? So they should have, like, for every time that somebody's had to change their name, have another space and put that in the search algorithm.
Absolutely.
Doesn't it make sense?
That would help so much.
Yeah.
And then I'd also like a place where I can put the title, like so many guys have been in the military. So I would like to put, major, sergeant. I don't think we have any generals that I found yet, but we do have a few officers. And a doctor, because I really, really want to make sure that people know that my auntie doctor was a doctor, because it
wasn't just like, oh, she's the witch doctor in the family and made everybody's boo-boos go away. She was a real doctor. Although the witches, that I they said they were doctors. Well, they weren't. They did weird things. Oh, okay.
Expand on that one. I want to hear about the witches.
Oh, well, okay. Toothacher. Those were the first of the witches. And Mary, she was released eventually, but Dr. Roger Toothacher, he died in witch prison. And Mary's sister was a gal named Martha Carrier. She's one of the more famous witches that was hung.
I recognize that name.
Yeah, she may have been like the first one that was hung, but she's in all the tomes. There was so Mary and Roger Toothacher's daughter, she was kind of into the family practice of healing people, and she would
wait. Let me stop. Hey, shut up!
We didn't hear anything.
You didn't hear the dogs barking?
No.
Oh my God, this thing is like incredible. I'm sorry. Oh my God, they're like going nuts out here.
Shut up.
Yeah, I have this thing, see?
She's Italian.
It goes over your microphone, and it's like having a studio over the mic. And I guess it keeps the noise out. Who knew?
Yeah, I wondered if my air conditioner was going to be a problem.
I heard it. I heard it, and I thought it was mine. So that's why I was like going like this, and I'm like, oh no, okay. But I heard it for a minute.
It's all fine.
I haven't heard it, but
there was a little feature that said you can stop the background noise. So I activated that. Hopefully, it helped a bit.
I thought the dog walker was coming, and they were going to go nutto. So I'm dog sitting. So.
Okay. So the witch, this gal, she was really into taking people's urine and doing spells from that, which I thought was really weird.
Yeah, a little.
So I guess she helped a lot of people, or they think she helped her. And then because she did things that helped them, they accused her of being a witch when it got to be popular to accuse people of being a witch. And she said that she had been in league with the devil because she asked the devil to make sure that the Indians didn't get her, because I guess there was a lot of raids from Native Americans that didn't appreciate them taking their land. Anyway, so she went through the thing. They found her not guilty, and she was eventually killed by Indians anyway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so much for her spells.
Yeah,
I kind of think they don't work.
No.
So you only had one witch in your family, or did you have?
No. Okay. So Dr. Roger Toothaker and his wife Mary, they were witches. Their daughter, and Mary Carrier isn't like my 7th great aunt, but so she was another relative. And oh yes, I think that another great grandma, and in fact it was the daughter of the Toothaker's daughter's daughter. She was also arrested. She was just a teenager, but they just kind of scooped her up with the rest of them.
Yes, they figured if one was, they all were.
Yeah.
Yeah, bloodline
association.
Yeah.
Or maybe she helped her mother at some point,
Well, if they're both witches, then she's a double witch.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing was just so stupid. And I was so disappointed that it was a Ballard that had arrested him. It's just like, could you have not done that? But,
yeah, couldn't you let him go?
When you start looking things up, you find people that you're really proud of, and you find people that you just really don't want to be associated with.
And you know what? That's such a good point, because it's like, how do you deal with that? That, yeah, you don't want to be associated with them, but you didn't do it, right?
Right.
I mean, and like Linda said, oh, German, but you didn't do it.
No, you didn't do it. You didn't condone it.
Yeah, you don't condone it, and it's awful and it's hideous, but I know people are like scared to say, oh, I'm not going to tell them that part of my heritage because you didn't do it.
I have slave owners and I have abolitionists. So some I'm proud of, some I'm not. And do I feel guilty about it? No, I'm not happy with them, and I shake my finger at them. But
absolutely,
we learn and we go forward and we do better.
Yeah, and then you see the same sort of stories repeat themselves, because we still kind of have family that maybe we don't agree with on some things without going into detail, but you know what I mean.
I think I do know what you mean.
Yeah, so it still happens. That's just the way that is, I guess. There's just people are going to always have a different opinion than somebody else, and you're just going to have to okay.
That's one of the cooler things about genealogy is that you are part of history, for better or worse.
Yeah, we carry their DNA.
Yeah,
at least up through 5 or 6 generations of it.
Yeah,
but they can still detect Neanderthal.
Yeah,
so I think it goes back further than that.
Yeah,
what did that? The
little
35% 35% Neanderthal.
More Neanderthal than most people.
Yeah, more than most.
Not 35% Neanderthals. You wouldn't be on the show being able to talk.
You really keep the hair down nicely.
Thank you. I try. I have a good filter on. Have you tried that what's it called? Is it Relative Finder? Where it tells you the famous people you're related to? Find a relative?
I think that I have, yes.
You sign in through Family Search.
I'm an 8th cousin to everybody in the world.
Me too. I'm like, Walt Disney, Julia Roberts, and everybody.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, Carol, since you did the 23andMe, did you find out your maternal haplogroup?
Yeah. You want to know it?
Yeah.
Let's see.
It's always interesting to
I
know.
just downloaded the
It's
app.
haploing.
It has like a special icon too, but you can go to any match and scroll down and it'll show yours versus theirs if they have theirs.
Oh, that's right. Okay, DNA relatives. Have you found some distant relatives that have been helping you out with your research?
No, just the one cousin in Norway, which he's been great.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I'm it on this side, on the German side, apparently.
So far.
So far, yeah. But I've been doing it for a while. Well, I did see some in-laws with trees that had some of my people in it, but it wasn't like somebody I can collaborate with. In-laws of a cousin.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, and I haven't found a lot of people that... Okay, your maternal haplogroup is H1C1.
H1C1.
Does that mean anything to you?
I was just asking because mine's V. I don't have a lot of matches. But I guess, they do like yours is an H. And then the rest of it is like a meeting with the second letter. I mean, it's like what did you say again? H1, 2?
H1C1.
C1, yeah. So H1 is an offshoot of H, and then it met up with C, and it's or C1. So that's how that is. Like the trail from the original female ancestor that
In
all
Africa?
of us share. Yeah.
Yeah. Lucy, I think her name is.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I haven't gone into. I actually would like very much to take a real legitimate course in genealogy, because right now I've been, winging it and,
Well, what I found interesting was the Ventura County. I live in Ventura County now. And there's a genealogy society. And it's right at my local library. And I know. So I'm sure that there's probably one over by you in your side of the state.
Yeah, in fact, there's a Mormon place that has genealogy. And when I was looking up, because there's Bowlings in my family, which means that you're related to Pocahontas. So I was trying to trace back there. And so I called them and I, asked them, I said I would like to look into my connection to Pocahontas. And he said, we're serious here. I said, I'm a serious genealogist. This is important to me. I mean, it's a piece of American history, and I'd like to know if I'm part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they were jerks.
Ugh. Yeah.
But
it was like $20 to join this, for the year. You can't beat that. And I joined a German one too that's out of Long Island that was $20 for the year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
I'll have to look into that. I know that they have some courses that you can take on ancestry.
Mm-hmm.
So
that sounds good too.
Yeah, I keep meaning to do that, and I keep not doing it.
So you still don't know if you're related to Pocahontas?
Oh, okay. So
I mean, can't leave the story hanging here.
There is a whole big thing about who's related to Pocahontas because she only had one kid. So they call them the red, white, and blue Bowlings. The red Bowlings are related to Pocahontas, red. The white Bowlings are just, relatives that are related to people that she's not related to. And the blue Bowlings are the ones that just blew in from out of nowhere. Evidently, I'm related to the blue Bowlings. So no, I don't think I am Pocahontas, which was a bummer.
Well, if you watch the Lewis Gates Jr., Dr. Gates show, the Finding Your Roots, Edward Norton found out that Pocahontas is his 12th great grandmother.
You think I wasn't jealous about that? I saw that one. Dang.
Yeah. And he's related to Julia Roberts too. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, it could happen, but I'm not one of them.
Yeah. Gina and I are related to a couple of the same people, but we're not.
Are you really?
We're related by marriage.
Oh, by marriage.
The Debbie Reynolds, Carrie Fisher group.
Yeah.
Katharine Hepburn.
Oh,
yeah. Who else? John Wayne.
I have so many. It's like I have Henry Fonda.
Mine all come in on the Swedish side or the Norwegian side.
Yeah.
And mine's all that line that we trace back to the BC people. It's all that. It's all of them. None.
Oh, you're not kidding. You really have BC people.
She does.
Yeah.
I was with her. We were online together and I was telling her to upload her ancestry tree to Family Search. But she's, I only have like 50 people on my tree. So we'd like do it anyway.
I said it just like that too.
It sounds like a whiny.
Totally.
And then before she knew it, I don't know how many's on there now, but it's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds started piling.
Yeah, it's so funny because I know I could trace my great grandmother on my dad's side, her mother, back to like 1500 in England. And so we started there and we started going back and it kept going. We were just howling. And I go, okay, this is probably the last one. Click. Nope, there's more. But they were all dukes and kings and queens and stuff. And it just kept going back to like, was it 200 BC or something like that?
Yeah, we had to stop because,
because they're going back to the Big Bang.
Yeah. Right. We didn't want to relive that backwards. So...
Oh man, I'm gonna have to do that. That sounds
it's fun. That was a fun site. I like that. Those two sites were fun.
And you said it was Family Search?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just upload your tree. You download your ancestry tree as a GEDCOM file, and then you upload it to Family Search. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and come back and tell us how far back you go.
Yeah.
I know. Every time I watch those shows, everyone's always related to somebody royal, and
yours will go back.
I have not found that.
Yeah, yours will go back.
Well, that's why I said when they roll out the family tree and they're kind of like long, I'm like, mine would be like wallpaper size.
It's like American records seem to be better and easier for people who are Americans to find and research, because they can't translate German necessarily from an old handwriting from 100 years ago.
Right.
I have a hard time with it too, but I know what.
And we don't have anybody saying, read the transcribed part.
So if you can, there's a good chance that you will find stuff. If you have those people marked on your new tree on Family Search, that they'll zing those photographs through if you have it.
I just got chills.
Exactly, right?
You learn something
new.
How
to press a genealogist buttons.
Hey. Yeah. What else was I going to say that was just going to be so fascinating? She's going to do it instead.
Yeah. We had talked about people that we found on the DNA, cousins through the DNA thing.
That's actually what I was going to ask you. Go ahead.
Cool.
I wasn't.
There's been a lot of people that didn't know their dad, or if they knew their dad, they didn't know anything about that side of the family. So I've been able to fill in some gaps on that. And one cousin, she didn't know who her dad was, but she had the DNA, and she said, would you mind helping me? Or I understand if you don't want to. And I'm like, nah, totally into it. So I looked at her cousin's list and my cousin's list, and I'm like, I think that you're related to my one of my grandfather's siblings, because he had a jillion siblings. First, the woman had 20 kids, and I think maybe 14 survived to adulthood. But the only one that I really connected with this family, they live in San Diego. It was that. And then she got a little nervous, and she's like, I don't know if they will accept me or if they want to hear from me or anything like that. And I said, what I know of them is that they are totally into family. They're a very loving, kind group of people. And I said, let me I'll email them and I'll find out. So I emailed some of my cousins, and they said, I said, she's on, I think she was on 23andMe. And I said, if you guys want to see if you're related to her, or I don't know if this would bring up issues. And they're like, no, we're totally into it. So they all took the test, and the first two that came in, they were first cousins. And then the next one came in was a full sibling. Half
sibling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I set them up, and they started emailing each other back and forth. And long story short, fully embraced. Absolute, goes to all the family things, comes out and visits. She ended up moving to Texas. Although she was born in California, she ended up moving to Texas, our ancestral home, and but comes out to visit them all the time.
That's amazing.
Have you had any negative things to your research from any of your family, like let sleeping dogs lie or anything like that?
Yeah. Yeah. And
really?
Yeah. I was going to tell you about, we're friends on Facebook. I love this gal. I just think she's amazing. And we have the same sense of humor and same politics and everything like that. So I adore her. And she's related to my mom's side of the family. Anyway, she had found her grandfather, who's a cousin of my mother, and she said, I don't know if I'm going in the right direction. And I said, yeah, well, we're from Oklahoma. And she said, oh my gosh. She said, I thought that couldn't possibly be right because everybody's from Illinois. Well, that cousin had moved to Illinois or whichever state at the time. I said, no, Oklahoma. And she kept referring to her great grandmother, who I knew personally. She was my grandmother's favorite sister. And I said, you keep calling her by her first name, but she never went by that. She always went by her middle name. I said, in fact, I never knew that wasn't her first name until I started doing the genealogy research. But so she wanted to talk to her grandfather, and he has Alzheimer's. And so they asked if she would please not. So I think she was a little sad about that.
Well,
and, yeah.
That's probably the only good reason, right?
Yeah.
Because if he can't remember, and if it just starts him sundowning or something, and
exactly, yeah, she understood, but
that's sad.
But you just wish you'd gotten there earlier.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
And then I met. There was another cousin when I first started doing it. After my experience with her, I'm surprised I even started helping other people. But, I know that there's just strange people everywhere. But I have an offbeat sense of humor, and sometimes it doesn't come across. Anyway, she tore into me something. And I don't even remember what it was, but I'm just like, okay, this one's nuts. So I just blocked everything on her. And I was really sad because I really wanted to help her find her family, but it was too much. But everything else has been just rosy. And so anytime anybody on those things asks me to help them find their relatives, I'm just more than happy to. But you do have to check in with the people, the other people, to see if they want it. But I actually knew my grandfather's siblings' kids, that the family is all now a unit, and they're all happy and glad they met each other. And she looks just like her half sister. So that was kind of cool for them. But anyway, that's all love on that one. And I hope to be able to do some more like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to be doing a show coming up on the different DNA tests and services you can use to go beyond like Ancestry and 23andMe. Like Gina and I both did a MyHeritage test, which is like $39 right now on sale, which is great. But you can actually even just download your Ancestry or 23andMe raw data file and upload it to there for free. And you might find a whole bunch of other cousins that might connect you to something else that you're researching. And then the GEDmatch is the same thing. And that even goes back. They have this archaic DNA thing where they have gone back and they have traced archaeological digs and put that in there. So they're able to match you with that DNA and say if you had ancestors back in like the Bronze Age or wherever the heck else. And
wow, did you?
You've done it, right?
Yeah, no, I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, you did. We went on there. We signed you in, didn't we? Or that was you were looking at mine.
No, I was looking at yours.
That's right. Yeah, it's very interesting. And at the time, I was doing some research on some family. I think it was like probably like the 1600s or something like that, 1500s. And I was like, I don't know if I'm in the right place. Because once you get that far back, you don't know if those records are right. Or it could have been somebody with the same name. But they're very small towns in Germany. And on that archaic DNA, they found somebody who was matched to me. Apparently in a dig site or something.
We found your cousin's femur. There you go.
Yeah. So Yeah, but isn't that something that they could put the same town related to it that I was researching on Ancestry, but they had the same town for the DNA match from, whenever that was. So I was right.
Yeah, that's really cool. I've been thinking about that GED site, JED site.
Yeah, GEDmatch.
Well, there's two, right? Isn't there JED Link and JED Match or something like that?
Well, GEDmatch is that one, and you can upload. And then Family Tree DNA, you can upload the same file there and get a whole bunch of other possible matches. And a lot of these have their email address on there, so you can just contact the person if you're a good match and you don't understand who they are, and just send them an email instead of that crazy inner app messaging system that sometimes people will answer you, sometimes they won't. It's like I'm at a 30% success rate with those. I don't know. I don't get very many people that answer me because, again, not everybody's as into this as we are. So
have you seen that there was a documentary, now there's a movie out called The Lost King about King Richard III? And they were able to determine that this body that they found was indeed him because they found a relative of his in Canada through DNA.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Look up I'm trying to think of what you would Google, but there's a couple of documentaries on King Richard III about them finding his body, which is a whole nother really cool story. And then there's that movie out right now called The Lost King.
So what are you working on next with this? Any particular section of your family tree or?
Well, okay. My auntie doctor again. I found an article and I found, some family stories that say that she had a mentor, and it was her brother-in-law. She had a sister that was, 12 years older than her, and it was him, and he's the one that saw the genius in this woman, and so I guess she worked for him for a while. Anyway, his name was Dr. George Washington Topping. So I really want to delve into him and what he was all about, because I am so grateful to him for what he did.
Really? Yeah. He saw that she had what it took, and it didn't matter that she was a woman back in the day to take her under his wing.
I know you watched Gentleman Jack, like Ann Lister.
Yeah.
Kind of she was into that doctoring stuff.
I know. When I saw those scenes of her doing that, I thought of my auntie doctor.
Yeah. There's a book or a movie there for sure. It sounds fascinating.
Yeah. Hey, do you know what happened to that program where that blonde woman was doing criminal DNA?
She's on the one Finding Your Roots with Dr. Gates.
Yes.
He sends her out.
She had her own show for a while, and it just disappeared.
I like that one. That was kind of neat. She's
Loved
DNA to solve criminal cases.
Yeah.
Maybe they have it at the library. I noticed that too when I got my new library card for the city. That they have all of those genealogy shows on video available.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I've missed a single one that's been on TV, but
yeah, same.
Might as well check it out.
Oh, so let's see. So you don't have any other older generations that you could DNA test at this point, then? Maybe? No? Yes?
No.
No. Yeah.
You mean older relatives to ask them if they would take a DNA test?
Mm-hmm.
No. I was able to talk my brother into it, so at least I have
that's good.
Male side. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't have to talk him into it. I said, "Do you want to do this?" And he went, "Yeah," and I was surprised.
Did you do the 23andMe with him?
No, we've only done Ancestry, but I'm going to ask him to do the 23andMe because I think they have a better link up for siblings. I don't think there's a link up at all on Ancestry. Have you noticed any?
Mm-mm.
See if they could go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, because when you get him to test there, then you'll know what your father's Y DNA line was, because he would have it and you have the mother's.
Yeah.
He has the mother's too. But he doesn't transfer that down to children. Only you could.
Yeah.
So,
have you guys done that? Do you have a male relative that you've gotten your male side?
No, I'm an only child, so.
But
I did figure out my grandmothers, my Norwegian grandmothers, because I have a third cousin who was a descendant of women directly. So she would have had the same as my grandmother. So that's interesting to know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's my goal too, is to trace back my my maternal line all the way back, and my paternal line all the way back, and see where we go. Because that's like a different type of tracking, just straight skipping all those other branches and just going straight back with the women or straight back with the men.
Yeah. Yeah, that is, I gotta say, that is a problem. I just get so much information on the ancestry that I just go off on tangents. I have a hard time having any discipline.
It's easy to do. Do you add in a lot of like in-laws and cousins and siblings and their families when you go in, or do you just stick straight with what you're trying to do, or do you just get as much as you can?
I get as much as I can, and that came in handy when my cousin had all these distant relatives and people that were married to distant relatives. When I uploaded their pictures, that helped a lot. To find out who they were and get their family pictures to them, because that's I gotta say that's every bit as important to me as doing my own stuff. Because like this woman out of the blue, not even related to me, posts a picture of my fourth great grandfather. I'm just was so grateful.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a second great grandmother, Norwegian, come up like that a few months ago too. Not just the great grandmother, but her mother. And it's like this little tiny picture. You can barely see her face, but Yeah.
Yeah. And okay, another. There are so many ways that I'm sorry. This is probably getting too long, but another thing.
No, it's not. Well, we can put it into two parts. Go ahead.
Okay. That I found super interesting is the death certificates.
Oh, those are like the plethora of information.
Aren't they, though?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, like I have one, distant great grandmother that she died drinking bleach. And I'm like, what the heck was going on here?
That wasn't within the last 3 years, was it? No, kidding.
No, this is, 100 plus years ago. But it's just like, oh man, that's awful. And then
was that on purpose? Was she trying to cure something?
That's what I don't know. If you're going to commit suicide, we don't have suicide as a rule that runs in our family, as those saints tend to do.
But what year did she die?
It must have been the early 1900s.
Okay.
But
I wonder if it was medicinal. Was bleach medicinal back then?
It is sort of. It is sort of. You put a little tiny bit in your water to make it so that it's not.
Really?
Yeah, polluted.
Okay.
Maybe she put too much in.
Her taking a white jug of Clorox and plugging it down.
No, she might have just put too much in, and it got to her. Who knows?
Oh my gosh! I never thought of that.
Yeah.
I'm just
or someone slipped her a Mickey.
That's what I wondered.
Or they didn't wash the cup out after they did it to the water, and she just put it would have been way too much anyway, just left over in the cup.
Yeah.
I think you would have smelled that, I would think.
You would think. I mean, she was old when it happened, so maybe her sense of taste and smell was
there you
way
go.
Gone.
See how we're writing the story.
Well, yeah.
And maybe if she was old, she just grabbed the cup, and it's like, hey.
I talked to you guys about this because it was just so baffling and distressing to me that's how she would off herself. But I think you're right. I think she probably was doing it for medicinal purposes.
Or to purify the water.
Mm-hmm.
Just in general, for the whole
where was she?
That they might have had,
Texas?
She was either Texas or New Mexico. I'll have to check on that for sure.
Yeah, and yeah. What part of the year? I have a reason.
Christmas time?
What day of the week? What hour of the day?
No, if like
I'll just freaking tell you because I can pull it right up.
Oh, well, there you go.
Well, scientific
and then
reasons.
Linda's scientific reason.
The scientific reasons. Drinking too much water if it's really hot.
I believe it was Maria Ricardo Vicente Delgado
Of course. That's what I was going to say. Look under that.
There she is.
Okay, death certificate. I think she's the one. She looks really Native American, by the way. Drank strong ammonia.
Oh, ammonia.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought it was bleach. See, this is why I don't really think the Bible was factual.
Death by Windex.
That's terrible.
My big
the Greeks are spraying it on
you. Okay. She was born in 1840 and died in, where's the death? 31. So it wasn't quite 100. Well, that would have been 1931. And it was November 26th, so it was around Christmas time.
Maybe she got a bad turkey.
Ammonia.
And edema of the lungs. Other contributory causes, drank strong ammonia. That must have been
it.
Yeah, because she was trying to get rid of the edema of her lungs.
Oh, you know what? Oh, okay. Here's the thing.
It's the plague doctor.
No, you know those back in the day, they used to have these little glass vials and they'd have like a little net around them. They were like gauze and you'd break them in half and there was smelling salts, but it was really ammonia.
A popper.
Ammonia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe she was using it maybe they were trying to wake her back up or something, or maybe she thought that would keep her up. I don't know. You know how they used to do medicine back in the day?
Yeah.
Apply leeches.
Because I can't imagine why you'd have ammonia for anything else. For cleaning, yes.
Back then, 30s, right?
Watching these programs, you get a genealogist and they'll say, well, this could have happened because this was popular back in the day. So I think you're probably on the right trail.
Might be something like that.
You thought it was medicinal and it didn't work.
I don't know what you would make with ammonia.
She was 91.
It could have been accidental.
Bless her heart.
Well, it didn't say that was the exact cause, but that was something that might have contributed, right?
It said the principal cause is edema of lungs, contributory cause of importance, drank strong ammonia.
Yeah.
So she drank it, so it wasn't the sniffing.
No. Well.
And it says ammonia was first used as a refrigerant in the 1850s in France and came to the States in the 1860s for artificial ice production.
There you go. Artificial ice production. Maybe it got in.
She got a bad cube. Oh my God, not the ice.
Got a bad cube of ice.
I'm sorry to be laughing. Great.
No, I'm an ice girl. This is horrific. No.
Yeah.
Which I always said, if I die in a funny way, please put it in my obituary. Because they're always so cagey about what the people die of these days. And I want to frickin' know. And I would hope that somebody's curious about how I died.
Well, now this says, too, exposure to high levels of ammonia triggers the burning of eyes, nose, and throat. Prolonged exposure causes blindness, lung damage, and even death. Ammonia is generated as a waste by the body and is excreted via the urine. A buildup of ammonia in the bloodstream can lead to brain damage, coma, and death.
Oh, dear.
Some people do drink their urine for medicinal purposes if they're into their own, medicine.
I've heard of that practice.
Yeah, so that could have been it, too. Because they might have done an autopsy and found that there was ammonia that way. Who knows? I mean, people have strange ways of, they used to have strange ways of trying to cure people of things. And she might have been told to do it.
I know I've been trying to find someone that died of leeches, but so far I haven't found anything of that. And she was born in Salud, Absalo, Guanajuato, Mexico, which I have no idea. I've never heard of Guanajuato, and died in San Angelo as one of the founding families. So there you go.
Well, do you have any other tips and tricks for anybody else that might just be getting started and, are on the path to trying to find historical people in their lineage?
I'll tell you what, it seems like you get good karma if you post old pictures.
Yeah.
Find a lot of people that have done a lot of research that can, get you up and going.
That's a great tip.
You put your parents, everyone that you know on the Ancestry site, and you're just going to get an avalanche of those little green leaves. And that way you can be on your way.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have the luxury of having a genealogist in the family like I did, that, kind of got me pointed in the right direction. And I wasn't sure his research was all good because he started doing it, back in the 60s when we didn't have ancestry.com. So, but
it might have been better research off of real documents and people that actually knew things.
You're right.
And he might have gone to Utah or wherever and gone through the records there.
Yeah. Well, he was a freaking genius, so there's no way that I could ever, rise to.
Well, then he wouldn't have been wrong. If he was a Sheldon, he wouldn't have been wrong.
Yes, he was a Sheldon.
Thank you. Then he was right. So
he was a Sheldon with a better personality.
I mean, it's always good to verify everything, but if you knew somebody was doing this and they were verifying it, it's like, well, do I need to retrace every step? Can I trust some of this depending on who it is? If they're just sitting there, like, yeah, I'll take that. It may not be right. You always have to go back and verify that. But
I was just busting my buttons because he was proud of me to have found the witches.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you for finding the witches.
Thank you.
That's cool.
There's this Facebook page that, it's the relatives of, the witches. One guy, several people, going back to what we had been talking about earlier, do you feel guilty about, your relatives? And these people are just like, I have so much guilt because, my relative was also one of the people that accused them and, got them hung. And I'm just like, nothing you can do about it.
They just did something about it by rebuking it. So there. Perfect.
They rebuked.
Yes. Good enough.
I just feel sorry for people that, are carrying that burden.
Yeah. Well, if they are putting it on themselves, that's one thing. But if they've had somebody say, oh, was your mother a Hitler Youth? Was your mother a Nazi? So, you kind of have that. Yeah. That's one thing.
Has somebody done that to you?
Oh, yeah. I grew up in Florida.
Oh, F word. I don't know if we're allowed to cuss on
that. She left long ago.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry that you had to go through that because
it just pissed me off that I had to argue with her. I don't care what anybody thinks. That's their problem, right? So, but yeah, that's
ain't your fault.
No,
you didn't.
And I have researched a lot, and I know that nobody was involved in that. At least not my direct people. I know my mom's brother was a soldier. He was like 18 or something.
But you know what? They might have not had a choice.
Exactly.
No, they all had to go.
They were threatening the families and stuff, so it's like,
Well, you had to go in the military.
That in mind too.
You had to go in the military, and it just happened to be that Hitler was in charge at the time, so he was in the military.
Right age.
Well, but he was also probably happily captured immediately by the Americans because he had it great, and he came back safe and new clothes, and that's that side of it. But it's just, you can't let this bother you if you had some interesting people in your background, like that relative finder Gina and I were doing. I'm apparently what was it? What cousinship with Charles Manson again?
Oh yeah, it's Charles Manson and her family. So there you go.
Are you kidding me?
And I can report I don't, and I have everyone. So
yeah. Yeah, it was like 12th cousin or something like that. I mean, 12th cousin, you know what that means. It's like you go up 12 and then you come back down 12 to him. So it's actually like 24 people I had to go through. We are not the same.
No, you are not.
And it shows you the breakdown too. It shows you the mutual relative and the breakdown. I know we're going through it and I'm like, oh yeah, look at it. I have Marilyn Monroe and Elvis and James Dean. And I mean, everybody is like Tennessee Williams, every writer, Upton Sinclair, Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King, Obama. I'm related to all these people for this thing.
I want to be related to Obama.
I know. And she goes, I have Charles Manson.
Yeah.
But, okay. I don't have it.
Yeah.
But what a story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well,
I also have Joe Albertson supermarket dude.
Ooh,
so,
huge.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, huge.
Produce for us.
Free groceries for life. There you go. Just like me with Walt Disney. Let me in the kingdom. I'm here. Give me the keys.
Yeah. So what site is that?
That one's Relative Finder.
Relative Finder.
Yeah, .org, I believe.
From Family Search. So you have to join Family Search first.
Yeah, and none of those, I have not verified any of the ones that they say that I'm related through. You know, I guess I could.
I don't plan to. I'll just live in my little ignorance is bliss.
But the Sean Astin one that came in through the Roots Tech, I think that's what it's called. I always get that wrong. But during the late winter, they had a thing over, I think it was either in Vegas or Utah. But he was a keynote speaker, and they said, click here, you might be cousins with Sean Astin. And I did, and they used my family search tree to get me there. But they didn't tell me the steps. So they said, here is your common ancestor. So I went up and researched it. It took me 2 days to research it. So that's how long that usually takes for something that far back. I mean, we're ninth cousins. So 9 up and 9 down.
I had an app for a while, and it was associated with Ancestry. And
I think that might be the same one.
Yeah. And they would tell you, what famous people you're related to. And that's when I found I was related to William Shakespeare. So I'm like, I just don't know.
Yeah. If you put your entire tree up there on Family Search, they'll have a lot more to work with. That's how it generates off of that.
Yeah. How much is Family Search?
Free.
Yeah.
Free.
I think that's why I kind of was giving it the brush off.
Oh, no. They're the ones. They have all the records.
We have to do a show about Relative Finder.
Okay. Yeah.
And we should each research at least one of them to make sure that
we tried the
legit.
Hepburn thing, but we couldn't find it on us.
No, we did, but we were related through different ways. That's why we're related by marriage.
So they do it through trees and not through DNA?
Yeah, it's through your tree. That's why you have to really put a little effort into it, because you can't trust everybody's trees, especially if it's like 12 generations back.
Yeah.
Who's going to really know?
Yeah. So on Find a Grave, some guy had posted a bio of my dad, and I'm just like, all right, this is my dad, and what you have written is completely wrong. So could you please take it down? And he said, oh, I was just going by some, research I did, and I just kind of put together what I thought might be right. And I'm like, well, it isn't right. I was a little bothered by that. But then I've been reading about some other genealogists that have said, make sure you get your facts right. From Find a Grave is not the end all. It helps, but, it's not the end all.
Yeah, newspapers.com is kind of nice, too.
Okay. This is something that I think Ancestry needs to do. I pay yearly or bi-yearly, every 6 months. I think that they should include the newspaper articles.
Well, they had a special, and you could hook it into your membership for a sale price. So you're actually getting everything. I don't know what it was, like 40% off or something. So I ended up doing it this last time, and I'm so glad. I'm so glad I did.
Well, I think I might do that. I figured this is my addiction. This is my hobby. It's better than meth. It's better than owning
So
horses.
they say.
Well, I wouldn't go that far about the horses. Maybe the meth part, but
Yeah, it's a relatively inexpensive addiction.
Well, it's good too because you're putting historical stuff out there as you're finding them, finding the sources. And somebody, it may not be, it might be like somebody who shares a great grandparent or great great grandparent, that's coming off the other way down, and they find all of the stuff that you've done one day that hooked together on your trees. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh my God, so and it might be like 50 years from now when we're all not here anymore.
Well, my cousin's, speaking to that, my cousin's son has shown a pretty good interest.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
see, there they are.
Yeah.
That's great.
He's going to be the one to piggyback on my work, I hope. I already sent him, just in case I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I've already sent him, my username and password so that he can have access to as much as he needs.
Well, that's good. Yeah. I do think I'm going to be doing this book because I've been scanning the pictures and I'm trying to figure out how to format it. Like, the grandmother side, the grandfather, and, pictures of maybe their houses that they lived in, all of that sort of thing, and just make a picture book. Because my mother was the picture thief, I think. And I think that I have them all. And here I am in America. And the offspring of her 7 siblings live in Germany.
Oh, wow.
So I'd have to translate.
All the pictures?
I think I have a lot of them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because she had, she came to America and lived with her mother's sister and uncle, and the aunt went back to Germany a lot and took a lot of pictures. She had a lot of the pictures anyway because she just did. And then there was another aunt that had a stash too, or they had the grandmother stash because she had the camera. So my mom took them all. And then there were some that were in my grandmother's house when she passed away. I think she took those too because I think I have them now.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. I did the same when my mom passed away. She asked if she knew she was on her way out, and she asked if there was anything I specifically wanted. And I said, all the photos. Mm-hmm. I said, and if my brother wants them, I'll make copies and he can have them. But I really want to make sure that I'm able to get a record of it. Yeah. My brother said, take them.
Yeah. I know my great grandmother on my great grandmother on my dad's side wrote it down, like since they got here, I guess. My mom's side, we have pizza trays. That's what we got. No photos, pizza trays. A couple photos.
I heard about your pizza trays. I think that's so cool.
It's hilarious.
Are you going to engrave the date on it or anything?
We still use them. Every time we make pizza. It's like and Christmas Eve, that's what we have instead of turkey and stuff. We have pizza. So I got
pizza trays.
If we don't know, but that's what we heard. But my mom and I make the pizzas now. So that came over to me since my nanny has passed. So guess what you're doing?
That is absolutely cool.
It is.
I have one cousin who is 10 years younger than me. No, 12 years younger than I am. And we were just going back and forth on Facebook. I just sent her a picture of, I think it was because both of her parents passed away. And I sent a picture of my uncle, who was her dad. And she said, I don't have any pictures of myself as a child.
Whoa.
Up to a certain age, except like maybe a school picture or something. I was like, give me a minute. Because I had them. Yeah, but when we came to visit, I would take pictures of her because she was this cute little kid, Uh-huh. And then my uncle would take pictures when he would go visit that family and send us some every once in a while and that sort of thing. So we would see what everybody looks like. And
I've been trying to get a hold of cousins. I want to find a young picture of my great grandmother that I only have a picture of her old. And she was, her mom died when she was 5 and her dad put her in an orphanage because he didn't know how to raise a girl. And so he kept the boys and sent her to an orphanage. So anyway, she grew up to be a pretty mean gal.
Oh, I wonder why.
Yeah, which I thought was, but I don't have any pictures of her young. And, and I'm sure my grandmother must have had pictures. So But anyway, I've been trying to poll all the cousins, and so far nobody gives a darn. But I figure they're out there somewhere. Just really like to find them. And I find that very strange that everybody says she was such a mean woman, because my grandmother was awesome. So were every one of her sisters and brothers that I've met had just been the sweetest people.
Well, maybe she just had a chip from being shipped off to the orphanage.
Maybe she was very protective of her children and made sure that nothing would ever happen to them. So she was lovely to them.
Well, evidently she wasn't lovely to them. Because they all said she was really mean.
They said that.
But maybe that bonded them.
Who knows?
But they still stuck with her. They still took care of her in her old age and everything.
They knew the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. You still have to be compassionate.
So promise us you're going to do a movie about Auntie Doctor. I want a movie.
I do too.
That would be a great story.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I really want to include the lesbian part. So I got
of course, yes.
Research Absolutely. On that and make sure I got my facts straight. But like I said, my dad never let facts get in the way of a good story.
Well, yeah, you got to take little liberties, but no, I think it'd be fabulous.
But yeah, I'd like to make it as factual as possible because she was a remarkable woman.
Well, you're finding all the real facts. When you're digging this stuff up, it's not like somebody's like, oh, well, let's change this date on here to like 6 years later and make it a little bit more romanticized. You're bringing up the real deal with everything that you're finding. So when you put it together, ultimately, it'll be as close to the truth as possible.
Were they the same age?
No.
She was younger.
Younger?
Effie was.
Effie.
How much younger was she? How did I miss this?
I think 15 years younger, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll look at it for sure. But
protege. A young protege.
Maybe, though. Maybe it started that way.
Could be.
Yeah. And she has, and this has been a big.
Did Effie do anything? Did Effie have a job?
Yeah, she was a music teacher.
Then she wasn't a young protege.
She's in the arts.
Just a housemate. Yeah.
Oh, they were tinkling.
But yeah, I wish I could find her diary. Evidently, my grandfather had it, and my dad accused his sister of stealing it, and she accused him of stealing it. So nobody knows where it is now.
I bet he buried it.
You think so?
Because he didn't want people to see what was in it. Because they probably were a couple.
That's not impossible.
Or it's in the wall, somebody's house. Like the Lister diaries. They found those.
I know. It's just amazing those weren't destroyed.
Yeah, and she wrote in code, so they had to decipher that. But yeah. I bet that's what happened. If he had it and they're accusing each other, then he did away with it. Or did something.
Yeah. Yeah, that wasn't even brought up or on the radar back then, in my family. It was never spoken of. So I just kind of had the inkling after everything I'd read, and they're matching gravestones and all that sort of business.
Do you have any old letters?
I wish.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's probably love letters around too. See, that's your artistic liberty right there. So the letters.
Well, you could just make a story out of it and turn it into fiction.
Yeah, I've considered that too.
Yeah,
but first
I'm kind of doing that myself. Yeah.
Are you? Are you with a family member?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yes, I'm doing an animated series with my pizza pans. That's what I'm doing.
It's Pizza Pan.
Have you named Pizza Pans?
Yeah. And Tinkerbell.
Yeah. No, and a Parmesan. Well, we're out of time, but Karol, thank you so much for being on our little podcast. We've learned so much. There's so much more we could learn from you. So please promise you'll come back another time.
Yes, tell us another story, please.
Yeah. Yes. Hopefully you'll come back with a screenplay and say, hey, for Auntie Doctor, because we're all in. we are all
Yeah,
in.
and I'll send you to my GoFundMe so we can raise money to do anti-doctor movie.
Let's do it. And thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
The Twice Removed podcast is produced by Linda Anderson and Gina Glass. All opinions expressed are of our own and of our guests. For more information and upcoming guests, please visit our website, twiceremoved.net.